Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who, of course, played for 11 seasons with the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey, much to talk about with the season starting. But we've got a special guest here, Vince Mercogliano, who works for .com, and of course that's part of the USA Today network, so you'll see his stuff there as well. And Vince, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, Vince. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Vince, you may not know, but of course Tom has a lot of interest in the New York Rangers because he obviously played for them, and he believes they're going to make the playoffs. And I was struck on Monday, USA Today did their annual point projections, and of course, you guys projected them out of the postseason. And
oh my God!
Okay, Tom, you're going to get your chance, but let me start this out here by filling everyone in. According to USA Today, and I'm assuming you made these projections, Vince?
I did the East Division, yes.
Yes, okay. The Boston Bruins is number one, 72 points. The Capitals second at 68. The Flyers third at 67. The Islanders, Tom, fourth at 62. Penguins, just as you predicted, Tom, out of the playoffs at 61. Rangers at 60 points. And then, of course, New Jersey and Buffalo. All right, Tom, say your piece, and then we'll get Vince to tell us what's really going on with.
All right, you Ranger fans out there, I will get Vince's address so we can meet him down at his apartment in the city too. All right, after doing that, but well, so I'm with you so far. I had the Boston Bruins at the top, although losing Krug, and I made that prediction after they lost Krug will hurt them, but then when they lost Chara, man, that really surprised me. I mean, I know he's an older player now, and this I assume they got younger kids coming up that they want to play. But man, for me, it was just having him in that locker room too was a big difference, and really kind of was the fabric, part of the fabric of that team. I believe the Capitals will make it. I believe the Flyers will make it. And I'm with you on Pittsburgh. I guess I'm just not as high. Well, I see where your point with 62 points with the Islanders there, but I just think with the Rangers, I see those young kids like Chytil and Kaapo Kakko. I do think that Shesterkin is the real deal. Like, I was watching him play last year when he was really on a roll there. I think he can be a kind of Vasilevsky kind of player that really steals some games for him. So I've got them higher. I've got them closer to 65 points. What was your thought to have them down at 60 points?
For me, and obviously you guys know I cover the Rangers, so I know the Rangers better than any of these teams. So for me, it comes down to a couple of factors. The Rangers, I think, are in many ways the hardest team to predict in this division. It's a very difficult division. I think everybody would probably agree it's the toughest division in the league this year. And for the Rangers, there's two main factors. Number one is that Coach David Quinn during this training camp has really been stressing to play with, he keeps calling it more of an in-your-face mentality. He felt like when they were against the Hurricanes in the playoffs, that aggressive forechecking style that a lot of the teams in this division play with was tough for the Rangers to deal with. He wants to see them take that style more to other teams. And defensively last year, they struggled. I mean, they bled a lot of scoring chances. They gave up a lot of shot attempts. They were way at the bottom of the league when you look at those statistics. So they've got to clean up defensively, and they've got to be more aggressive, kind of taking the game to their opponents, which I think in this division will be difficult. But then the other thing, and Kevin touched on it, and Tommy touched on it as well, is there's so many young players on this team. So it could go one of two ways. You talk about a guy like Shesterkin. If he can sustain what he showed in that 12-game sample size last year over a full season, that puts the Rangers in much stronger playoff position. If a guy like Kaapo Kakko, who they're asking after struggling as a rookie to step into the top six, if he excels, that puts the Rangers in a different category in my mind. Alexis Lafreniere, he's a rookie. We think he's going to be really good as a rookie, but he's got to prove it. Keandre Miller is a 20-year-old defenseman who they're going to ask to play in their top four right off the bat. What can they expect out of him? So there's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of what is expected to be the youngest roster in the league. And if these players, if their talent shines through, and if they take off and play the way that we think they're capable of, then I absolutely think the Rangers can be a playoff team. But I feel like they're probably still a year or two away from really being in that perennial contender category, which I do feel like they're on their path to.
Vince, can you give us sort of a walkthrough on what you've seen, with the younger players, with Fox, with Kakko, with Lafreniere in terms of where exactly they're at now? I mean, can you see the improvement in Kakko? Can you see the improvement in Fox? Like I thought, as well as Fox played during the regular season, I thought in the postseason he sort of hit a wall a little bit. Like like it caught up to him. Like he suddenly realized what he didn't know about the league.
Yeah, I think Fox, out of all the rookies, you could argue was the most impressive last year. So I think the Rangers feel really good about him. I don't want to, this is a lofty comparison to make, but I think a lot of people see shades of Brian Leetch in a player like him. Tom, I don't know if you would agree with that.
Totally. Yeah, really composed with the puck, confident with the puck at a really young age. Yes, definitely.
So Fox, I think they feel really good about. But again, you look at that defense. Of their top 4 defensemen, 3 of them are going to be 22 or younger. Fox, Ryan Lindgren. And then the big story in this camp was Keandre Miller. He only played 2 years of college hockey, has never played a professional game in his life. And not only did he make the team, but they're pairing him with Jacob Trouba and putting him, you can call it the top pair, the second pair, whatever you want to call it. But that's a big responsibility for a 20-year-old kid. But he has been thoroughly impressive. 6'5", 210 pounds, chiseled, moves incredibly well. His mobility, a big guy on skates that moves as well as he does, has been really impressive during camp. And his skill with the puck. I think the question is he ready to defend at the next level? But David Quinn has raved about the reach of his stick and the length that he brings and how he's a really tough guy for opposing forwards to beat. So, those guys, Keandre Miller was very impressive. Lafreniere has been, I feel like there's been practices where he's kind of just getting his feet wet and trying to find his footing, and you can tell that. But the flashes of the vision, the playmaking ability, their most recent intra-squad scrimmage on Sunday night, he had a really pretty goal. Got fed by Julien Gauthier, another young player the Rangers are asking a lot of this season. And the other thing with Lafreniere is, he has been really aggressive on the forecheck, not willing to throw his body around. So you see that I think the physicality of the game is not going to overwhelm him. And then you mentioned Kakko, just as the last guy, Kevin. He's talked a lot about, he felt like what he learned last year is he needs to be stronger. He needs to be faster. I think the physicality of the game overwhelmed him at times. I think the speed of the game overwhelmed him at times. So he worked out a lot, I'm told, in Finland in the offseason and really tried to get his body ready for what he found out last year was a grueling NHL season. So I'm very curious to see him because, like I said, they're plugging him into their top 6, even though he didn't have a good rookie season. And now it's kind of on him to sink or swim. Even though he's only 19, we're putting a lot of expectations on the guy. He's only 19.
That is true. What's going to be tough for Lafreniere and Miller both, and the good young players, no preseason games too, right? It's so unique to only have 10 days of training camp, no preseason games. Now you're going to jump into a regular season game. On Kaapo Kakko, and I hear you, he didn't have a great year last year, but I think what happens sometimes with those young players, you see Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid and those guys come in as 18-year-olds and play so well. That's rare, right? I mean, you see a guy like Nathan McKinnon, his first 2 or 3 years really struggled, and now he's arguably the best player in the league. So I hear you, Kaapo wasn't as good as maybe expected, but I think you still have to look at the package and you say, okay, well, he's a big kid who handles the puck well, shoots well. It's almost expected to not have a great year. I think, if anything, you touched on it, not having a great year last year will help him because now he's worked harder at the game. It didn't come too easy for him, right? So I think he'll still do pretty well.
And he's getting a chance to play with Artemi Panarin, so that on the same line, so that'll help.
Yeah, definitely. How is Zibanejad missed so much time, right? So he came out and admitted that he had the virus?
Yeah, he had COVID. He was able to skate a little bit over the weekend, and then he was a full participant in practice for the first time on Monday. I think it's like one of those touchy things because, you mentioned such a short preseason. The first game is Thursday night. They didn't practice Tuesday. They're going to practice today on Wednesday. He's only going to have 2 practices under his belt. Is that enough to then go out and play in a game? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough for any of these guys, just 10 days, but that's what we're dealing with. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Vince, I think everyone recognizes the talent that DeAngelo has, but there's a wonder of whether, his off ice behavior, particularly his social media use, whether it will eventually bite him on that. What's your assessment of where his relationship is with the Rangers with regard to how he conducts himself on social media?
I think it's definitely fair to say that he frustrates them at times. I think that they would prefer him to not dip his toe into the controversial waters. as often. And I want to be clear with that I do not think the Rangers, and especially I would definitely say that I don't want to speak for anybody else, but do not begrudge him for his own politics. Like, I don't think it comes down to politics, but there have been instances where I think the behavior has gone from, obviously when you get into the political waters, you're going to stir up fans that are on the other side of the aisle. But when it goes into, I'll just give you a couple examples. In the past offseason, before he came to his contract agreement with the Rangers, there was an incident where he got into a back and forth with fans, and he antagonizes fans all the time on social media. And he got into a heated exchange where he was challenging a fan to meet him outside of Madison Square Garden for a fight. And I know the Rangers did not like to see that. Listen, Tony is a passionate guy. I respect and appreciate the fact that I know when I go up to him for an interview, he's going to give me an honest answer. He's a very straight shooter, and I appreciate that. But I think that, when you're challenging fans, you kind of got to live above the fray when you're a professional athlete, when you have that kind of attention on you. So I know the Rangers didn't like that. And then after he got his contract in November, he put out a tweet that was basically questioning, why isn't everybody talking? It was around election season, and he was questioning, why isn't anybody talking about COVID-19? And, when you play for the city of New York, which has been devastated, I live in New York, we have been devastated by that virus. To make light of it, whether it was a joke or not, is just, it's not a smart move. So he keeps repeatedly making these moves that just don't shine a very positive light in the Rangers. And I think they have every right to take issue with that. And now he says he's not using social media except for Parler, which again, I don't want to relitigate the whole Parler thing here, but that's a questionable decision. I'm not saying nobody thinks, or at least most reasonable people, I don't think that he agrees with what happened at the Capitol a couple weeks ago, the seizure, whatever you want to call it. But to associate yourself with the platform that has been exposed for hatching those plans, or it's been clear that there have been posts that have incited violence on that platform. Why would you feel the need to make this big announcement and associate yourself with it? It's kind of calling attention to yourself in an unnecessary way. And I know the Rangers would like him to just tone it down a little bit.
Well, I'm still just learning Facebook and Instagram. I saw Parler written someplace the other day, and I said, "What is this Parler?" I thought it was a misspell or something like that. And then you just told me it's another platform, so I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think again, Tony he's become so polarizing that if I even tweet about, Tony did this in practice, like everybody jumps on it. Like a lot of fans just really dislike him now. And I don't know if that's fair, but I do think that he has said some regrettable things, and it's maybe time to kind of look in the mirror and scale back a little bit.
Who I'm looking forward to see play this year is Jacob Trouba. I almost thought last year with the team, they had some good stretches, bad stretches. I almost thought he got himself in trouble by doing a little bit too much. I think he's that guy that's got to be that good, solid defenseman, bang bodies, big shot, move the puck up, play in the power play. That when he tried to carry the puck too much, he got in trouble. So I'm thinking this year now it's going to be a second year in New York. I think that from what I see, they really look at him as that top pairing defenseman. I really look forward to seeing him play this year.
He's been pretty open about the fact that it took him a while to get comfortable, not just with the system that the Rangers play, but also just, he had been in Winnipeg his whole career, and then he comes to New York. And I think he's a very kind of cerebral guy who felt like it took him a while to really feel like he fit in and was comfortable in the city and comfortable playing for the Rangers. So I know the Rangers are expecting him to kind of get back on track and get back to being that player that they thought they traded for. And I know that one of the things is that he really did not have a consistent partner last year. Yeah. He played with Brady Shea a little bit, who ultimately gets traded. He played with Libor Hajek, a rookie who did not have a good season. He finished up with Brendan Smith, who's kind of a journeyman veteran. So they're hoping that the pair with him and Keandre Miller is what can be a long-term pair for them, because obviously they plan on both of those guys being around for a while, and I think they want to see him finally settle in with somebody, be comfortable. And like you said, he's very willing to throw his body around. He can be what they hope is like a shutdown defenseman, a guy that is going to really do well in his own end. I don't think they're even very concerned with the offense. His points dropped off, but if he can be a solid defenseman, a stay-at-home solid defenseman for them, who can move the puck when needed, I think the Rangers would be very happy with that.
I agree.
Vince, before we let you go, obviously when you're a journalist, and I lived with this for so many years myself, you make these projections and sometimes they don't age well because people get hurt. Some players step up, some players, have slumps. But you cover the Rangers. You're there all the time. I'm sure you have in your head a thought of one or two things, or maybe two or three things that could happen that would give the Rangers a real good opportunity to make the playoffs. In your mind, what could happen that would, in your mind, make you believe that they were going to make the playoffs?
I touched on it a little bit, but I want to see improvement defensively, and I want to see them get more aggressive with that forechecking physical style that Quinn wants them to play. I know they have a lot of skilled players, so you're not necessarily wanting to fit a square peg into a round hole, but he wants everybody on the team to take a little more ownership of, protecting their own end, fighting for loose pucks, that kind of thing. And then again, the young guys. Igor Shesterkin to me is a huge key. If he can be the goalie that we think he can be, that puts the Rangers to me very much into that playoff conversation. And a lot of those young forwards, defensemen, Miller, Kakko, Lafreniere. We mentioned Philip Hedl. He's a guy that I think is really pivotal for the Rangers this season. So I want to see the young guys all take a step, and I want to see the team overall become a little more defensive-minded, a little more defensively responsible.
Yeah,
okay, hold on one second. We need Vince's address now that we hand out to all the Ranger fans. So you pick it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, they did not like that I had the Islanders in over the Rangers. I'll say this about the Islanders too. I could easily see them not making it, but maybe I'm putting too much stock into what they did in the bubble. But that grind you out defensive game that they play, those low scoring games that they play, I feel like in this division they'll find ways to get. If you notice, I had the Rangers and the Penguins winning more games than the Islanders, but the Islanders got more of those loser points. Yeah. So I think the Islanders, they may lose some overtime games, some shootouts, but I think they're going to keep it close, and that will put them in a position to maybe sneak in.
Okay.
Well, Vince, we appreciate having you on, and we hope we can have you on as the season progresses as well. Talk about the Rangers. We have a lot of Rangers fans that watch us because of their affinity for Mr. Laidlaw there. So we appreciate you coming on.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for reaching out. Appreciate it.
Right. Good to meet you.
You too.
All right, that was Vince Mercogliano, who works.
Good.
Yeah, he did a nice job for us there, and seems to be very wired into what's happening with the Rangers. And I think his assessment, we all know, even though Tom and I are bullish on the Rangers, we also know that they're a bubble team because everybody probably but the Bruins are bubble teams in that division.
Well, even though I think now Bruins have come back to everybody else a little bit by losing Chara, but I know he's, as a 40-some-year-old hockey player, but still his influence in that team is huge. But I agree with you. Yeah, those young kids, you hope that they develop. You hope Lafreniere is great. Shesterkin, man, I have a hard time seeing Shesterkin struggle from what I've heard about him and what I saw. So, but yeah, I agree with you. His assessment was good.
Yeah. And, I agree with you on Boston. I think they're going to miss Chara's leadership and the stability he brought to the defensive game. Part of the Bruins tradition is defense. That dating back to Claude Julien's time there, they're good. They play good team defense. Bergeron is a terrific two-way forward. He sends a tempo up front for them playing a two-way game. But also Torrey Krug, I think they're really going to miss him, and not just his points. He brought a lot of energy to that Bruins team. He played with reckless abandon often. Where he'd sacrifice his body. We all remember watching him in the playoffs, and his helmet coming off and him playing without the helmet, which you can't do anymore. But you could back then. So,
and even they're going to start the season without Pasternak. Apparently, I heard on the radio that he's skating now, but won't play till February or whatever. So they're going to miss him off that top line, which is arguably the best line in the league. They get out to a slow start, and they've lost two of their best defensemen. Listen, maybe it's something like Charlie McAvoy. Do they believe that this guy is a real big time player? I think he is a great player. Do they think, okay, we needed to move people out of there, give him more? He can be more of that leader on defense. That may be part of the rationale. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the thing about McAvoy that I think people forget, because we think of when young defensemen come up. Now I know the folks in Boston know this, but people who just see 3 or 4 Bruins games a year, you think of there was a lot. There was sort of a buildup for McAvoy arriving. People said they're going to get a great young defenseman. But he had over 100 hits last year. Like, this is a guy that will bang the body a little bit. Like, he's not one of those, great young, he's not Cale Makar. Like, he handles the puck really well and he plays with confidence. But, this is a guy that will play a physical game as well. So, I think he's, one of the keys to the Bruins. Like, I think he's going to get power play time this year. He's going to lead that team. And I also think he'll be a different player. Now, you can speak to this more as a former player, but like, even though, Chara and he learned from Chara in some respects, I would argue might have held him back a little bit because, Chara cast a long shadow, literally and figuratively. It's hard to be yourself when you're a young player, when you have a legend, because make no mistake, Chara is a legend, on that team.
You know what? That's a great point. But and I do look back at my career and I remember times when Barry Beck, he was by far the leader on our team, the dominant player, could do it all: power play, penalty killing, hit, fight, score goals, do everything. But when he was out of the lineup, I found myself, I did more, I don't think I was really holding myself back when Barry was was in the lineup. It was more, I had a different role. I didn't have to do as much thing. And Herbie wanted me to be more that kind of 1A or B defenseman or second defenseman, not second necessarily. I had Ray Ruth-Lane and James Patrick and Ron Grescher and lots of other players. But actually, I had people come to me sometimes when Barry was out of the lineup and they'd say, Tom, why don't you do more during the game like you do when Barry's out of the lineup? But it just, you don't. So Barry's doing that stuff. I didn't have to do that stuff. I had other things to do, maybe be more dependable defensively. So, it does hold back. And I can see that with McAvoy because, obviously McAvoy is a far better player than I was, his potential offensively. So I think, that's going to be the one byproduct with both Krug and Chara gone, that McAvoy, as long as he's got a good enough supporting cast around him, will be much more dominant player. And he was already a dominant player too. So I agree.
If you could have been clairvoyant, if you could have had a crystal ball, if you could have seen in the future when you were playing for Herb Brooks, you could have said, Herbie, someday I'm going to be on the power play with Wayne Gretzky. Like, I can handle the puck. And
I will never forget the time, though. Like, Herb did not want me handling the puck. We were, I'll never forget, we were in Washington, and we were killing a penalty. And I guess I must feel pretty good about myself. And I had the puck inside our blue line. All I had to do was shoot it down. And some guy came towards me, and I did the little toe drag around him, and then I shot it down. So it was a useless little move. I could have shot it down, but I felt pretty confident about my game, so I did the toe drag. Got back to the bench, and Herb just ripped into me. You ever do that again? It was a small little play. He just, like Herb said when he first started coaching me, he said, Laidlaw, when you get the puck, give it to somebody else. You're not supposed to have it. So that's
I think the exact quote is, when you get the puck, think a mistake has been made.
Exactly.
So,
Hey, you know what I thought was interesting this year with one of the byproducts of the flat cap and the pandemic is the guys that got put on waivers recently. Guys like Perry in Montreal that just signed there. Tyler Johnson in Tampa got put on waivers. Backus, who just signed in Anaheim, got put on waivers. It's really interesting stuff. Even Claude Julien in Montreal said that he came out and got quoted saying we had to do it. Talking about putting Perry on waivers. So.
Well, and you got to be able to move him back and forth off the taxi squad, and that's that's the key element. I mean, this is the most unique hockey we have ever seen, and I don't know whether you paid attention to what Gary Bettman said on Monday, but he talked the league's going to lose over $1 billion.
Yes.
By playing hockey. They could actually, as he pointed out, lose less money by not playing, but they all understand, this is important. We're going to have, the other thing I think is interesting is, and I'm not sure that the fan base has caught on to this yet, but we don't necessarily have to have an East versus West Stanley Cup final. That we're going to seed the players, or seed the teams after when we get down to the after divisional playoffs.
Wow!
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's one unique aspect of it that we are going to see, and I think we all have to. And I keep beating this drum, but I think it's important to remember, because we all want to start yelling and screaming about how we were right, they shouldn't be playing. We have to expect that there's going to be COVID cases, just like we did in the NFL. It's going to be similar but different. similar in that players are going to be gone for short periods of time, but it'll be different because they won't miss one NFL game. They're going to miss multiple NHL games. So that's what's going to happen. We've already had it. We've had a delay in the Dallas Stars season. And now, fortunately, it's not going to be a big deal. They'll be able to, and they had a lot of players that and staff members that tested positive. But we're going to have to expect that, and we're going to have to just work through that. It's not going to as much as we're all excited about that. We're going to see a game of your favorite team every 2.07 days. We may go a period where we don't see a game for 8 or 9 games, or 8 or 9.
So now you have to. I think the rule is right. You have to dress 20 players for every game. So I wonder if we ever get to the point where maybe they can only dress 17 or 18 players, even with the taxi squad, because there's 27 players in training camp, supposedly league-wide, who got the virus during training camp. 17 of those were with the Dallas Stars. So if that happens during the regular season, I mean, will they be allowed to dress 15 players or 16 players instead of the 20 they were required to?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll do it. I mean, we've seen that as I think that's true. I mean, we've had in the past teams dress fewer players for financial reasons, for cap reasons. Yep. If you go back a few years, there were, I think it was the Calgary Flames. The
Players Association was not too happy about that either. That's a collectively bargained issue that they were not supposed to be doing, and they got away with it. Yeah. So, but I do think we're going to see that. We're going to see some unique things here. Yeah. Let's face it. But I think we're all happy that there's hockey. Players are going to get paid. I think that's important. I mean, their careers are short. I mean, think about it in those terms. I know it's hard for fans who look at multi-million-dollar players and say, well, we shouldn't feel sorry for them. But if you're missing parts of 2 of your seasons and you were only going to play 6. That's a significant loss of income. So, I'm even though it's hard to feel sympathy for guys earning $1 million. Not everybody earns $1 million. So, did we touch on this before? Did we see where Evander Kane had to file for bankruptcy?
Well, my pit bull just decided to make an appearance.
Excellent. All right, I like that. Talk about money dog.
Yeah. Did I see what now?
Evander Kane had to file for bankruptcy. Wow.
Yes, I saw that, and he's been had issues before. I know a casino in Vegas at one point said that they owed him money. So I don't know, have all the details on that, but
he said what I understand. He said he had like 7 dependents, and that's not all children. That's apparently he's including his parents and some other relatives as dependents in that too. And yes, one of the listings was said he had like a $1.5 million gambling debt. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's all. That's all part of it. And I saw there was an issue too about money was being taken out of his check to pay a. Now my grandson is making an appearance, so we're gonna have the whole family here today.
That's all right.
But anyway, I don't know how that can't impact your life when you're trying to play hockey. I mean, you don't want to see that if you're a team. And he's not the first player that's had financial difficulties, far from it. I think when you make a lot of money, sometimes it sort of gets in the way if you're not smart about how you manage that money.
Yeah. And if gambling's included in that too, I don't know this, but I'm assuming I keep thinking that the gambling is going to save you somehow too, right? That you're going to hit it big in the gambling, and the debts just continue to mount and mount. And again, I'm not saying that that's the issue here, but when you have a $1.5 million gambling debt, I'm sure that's part of it too. Hey, you know what I'm looking forward to? Did you see where they announced that they're going to have the outdoor game in Lake Tahoe as well?
Yeah. Are you going to try to head out to that, or?
Oh, that'd be beautiful, man. That'd be unbelievable, right? I mean, I know you're not going to have 100,000 people, not going to have that many people anyways because of the pandemic, but to pick a location like that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I've always said, when you run out of historic venues, that you should just sort of create things like, why wouldn't you just go out to like Vail, Colorado and and create an ice rink just carve it out and put some stands in and play there. Yeah,
just like
or Alaska. Just go someplace out in Alaska where you just
okay. They're just like they did in the movie Mr. Alaska.
Mr. Alaska, right?
The players are going to be like, "Are you kidding me? You want us to go to Alaska, to play hockey?"
Well, but or Squaw Valley would be another place where
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, so there are places that you could do. Create a rink and make it fun. And when you go to those ski areas where you're in the higher altitudes, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to have lots and lots of snow. And that's what everybody wants to see. Like people tune in on January 1st, especially when it's in a cold weather area, and to see if there's going to be snow. Are we going to get the snow globe effect? I mean, that's why this concept worked. Everyone's forgotten, but in the first game, Pittsburgh at Buffalo, it snowed. It was beautiful. Yeah, and they had to shovel the snow off all the time. And I think that much like in football, the frozen tundra at Green Bay, everybody wants to see that.
There you go. Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The UP. Just create some areas, create a rink. And you know what? You don't have to have 100,000 people or 60,000 people. You can create an area where you can, have 40,000 people, create some temporary stands. And I mean, my gosh, they bring in $1 million worth of ice making equipment to do it. They can bring in some temporary stands, although you could just use the Northern Michigan football field, I suppose. You could do a lot of things up there. So
those are the days going to those football games back up there.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be good to have hockey back, and we're having it in cold weather, so it feels more like hockey weather. I'm glad that we're ready and got the season go. But again, I'm warning everybody, this is not going to go smoothly, and just expect it. It's not the end of the world if we miss a game here or there. These are healthy athletes. They're going to survive when they get COVID, or at least we hope they will. Everything will put up with some aggravation, but I think in the end, we're going to crown a Stanley Cup champion.
Right. And I like what they did with the schedule, too. If you go back and look at it, they've really left some open days. Like, let's say the Islanders and Rangers are playing each other. They'll have a day in between. So they're obviously thinking that, okay, we're going to have to reschedule some games here. Yeah. Yep. That'll be the way it is. Yeah. As long as everybody's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're trying to be careful. They're trying to do the best they can, try to figure it out. We'll hope for the best.
Definitely.
Anyway, I think we've run the course today. And Tom, we want to thank Vince for joining us on the show today. I hope he'll end up being one of our regulars. He seems pretty knowledgeable on. He covers the Rangers. He'll be there, so we'll get the inside scoop from him. So thanks for joining us.
We have to change his mind, though, to get the Rangers in the playoffs here. He's in big trouble. Hey, again, you can listen to us on radio.co, 365 Sports. You can watch Kevin Allen. Kevin Allen does a lot of writing on hockeybuzz.com, and then he does his other podcast with Bob Duff, which is named again what?
Hockeydebates.com. Hockeydebates.com.
Excellent. All right, good.
We'll have Michael Heika on today, who writes about the Dallas Stars. He's going to talk to us about the COVID situation.
Oh, that's right. Good. Oh, I want to hear that. That's good. Good job. Excellent. All right, everybody. We'll see you next Monday.